All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February SPIT Committee meeting. The time is 7:35. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And next, approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next, we have our technology update. Mr. Parker?
Hi, good morning. Thank you. What I wanted to do today was talk about cybersecurity. And in your packets is some information on this topic, and it goes through several slides about basically where we were with cybersecurity and where we're headed to. And I put a PowerPoint slide up, but the elements of cybersecurity involve money, people, risk, time, and effort. And all of those are involved anytime you talk about cybersecurity. One of those elements are involved in the process. And with that, we have we did an evaluation of Union County cybersecurity and had some third-party intrusion testing done, which is where a third party tries to breach your systems and gives you a score of 0 to 1,000, where 1,000 is the worst you can be, and 0 is obviously you're perfect. The industry average is around 425, and so to give you that information, we went through an evaluation process where we assessed our hardware and software inventory. We performed some initial intrusions. We did a response. We did some remediation, and we did analysis of our applications. Our initial score on the third-party intrusion was 825, and that was about 9 months ago. So over the 9 months, we have progressed now to where we're about 475. That's still, while that's a valiant goal and a valiant achievement, that is not where we want to be. Eventually, we want to be below the industry average. And what that is it protects our assets and our data from outside intrusions. And if you read the news or you see alerts on your phone, every day there's another breach of ransomware, another breach of a school system being shut down. So we have applied several layers. And today I wanted to take a moment and pause. And it's not just me that's reflective of this. I brought my leadership team with me today. They're over here, and it's Preston McConnell, Josh Walker, Emil Iglesias, Gordon Tout, Steve Dugan, and Henry Schutte. Those are part of my team. So when you see me, you see the leadership team behind me, also applying all these efforts and working every day to get these scores down. And it's always at our forefront. Even though the daily task is to support the district, we're always looking at security and improving our stance in the district. So as you see these wheels and mechanisms, I just wanted you to be aware of what's going on. The next slide is from SonicWall. They collect data on intrusions. And if you look at the third one over from the left, it's 4 trillion intrusion attempts were completed over this last year. And as you can see how many attempts of each variety are out there, it is an ever increasing, attacks on and K-12 is the #1 target according to the Secret Service last year. We went to a conference with them here in Charlotte, and they said that K-12 is the #1 target for intrusion and attacks now, because typically they're not as well funded as a private business. They don't have a security metrics team that's dedicated towards that. So they're after them. And if you read the news, there was over 288 breaches in school districts last year, K-12s. And at the state of Louisiana, John Bell Edwards called a state of emergency, not for tornadoes or weather. It was actually called because they had so many ransomware attacks in their state. So seeing that, I signed up for the Department of Homeland Security to let me know when there is an attack, and so that we're aware of it. So we get those emails daily, and we pass them on to our leadership team, and we make sure that we are secure in those areas and move. But over to the right of that same slide, it just gives you some overreaching elements that we employ to protect our district and our resources. One of those is we're bringing in Microsoft's online threat protection and advanced desktop protection this next year to shore up some of our resources and protect us at a better level. The next slide is this is a monthly framework, and it's the familiar chevron slide that gives you an indicator from left to right. So over the school year, these are the high level tasks that we have performed and where we're headed to, so that you're aware of all of our efforts each month and where we're going to ultimately be at the end of the year. And I won't go through all of these, but in your packets are also two other slides that are not on the screen. They go into more detail about our enterprise server areas, and they go into our network areas. Those are things that I can discuss with you offline if you want to know more detail about them. I can bring more information, but I didn't include those on the public slide. As you can see on the last slide, there's a disaster recovery plan. So every school district needs a sustainable plan if there is a breach or attempt of a security incident. And with those, I just wanted to walk you through it. We would have, if we ever had a security breach or incident, we would launch our response plan, which is where we remediate, look at, examine, see how it occurred, how we can protect it. We perform any actions that we need, and then we would bring our business continuity back online by restoring data. On the right-hand side also shows the alert path. So for communications, we would let our superintendent, Dr. Houlihan, make him aware immediately when it happened. The second communication would be you to the board to let you know there is a incident. And then the third level would be to our communications, our legal, and our law enforcement staff to let them know. While we've been blessed and fortunate that nothing has ever happened, you can read the writing on the wall that they're constantly at us. Over the last year, we probably had 30 or 40 attacks on what they call denial of service. And what those are is where they send so much traffic to your websites, they try to bring your networks down. And we mitigated those usually within 30 seconds or less. We mitigated them, so the district never really knew. It's not an uncommon experience. Hackers will try to test systems and see if they can bring them down with those attacks, and we can mitigate them. So far, we've been very successful mitigating and making that. But we know that while we are successful right now, they'll change the tactics and get better. So we constantly are reviewing, renewing, and implementing strategies to keep this away. So just so that you're aware of each level of the cybersecurity and where we are, we incorporated a lot of elements into our new Microsoft agreement coming in a 3-year renewal. This comes up this year, so I incorporate a lot of their elements in, negotiated a vast discount down for our district, and now we'll move forward and hopefully make us better. And the next time we talk, we'll be down below the industry average or better than private industry at securing our networks in there.
Mr. Parker, I have a question. So
Yes,
I appreciate the work of you and your team. You guys are doing a great job. All of these updates are great. I'm curious. I know in the workplace, we have our IT staff does some phishing
Yes.
for us, right? So they send us emails that are very legit. And
they are.
I am super diligent in my efforts in watching this, and I actually fell for one the other day. It came out the day before payroll was due to hit, and it said there was a problem with payroll, and I clicked this link, and I fell for it. But what it is it's a test, and they push an email out, and then you have the option in our Outlook to report as phishing, right? So curious, one, if we're doing anything like that. And then the second question is, are we doing any type of education for our staff? So, and when I say our staff, like all of our teachers, when they have their teacher work days, do we have any presentations that we run to them to talk about that, to give them some hints? Like if something just doesn't look right and you see that comes from outside source, like look up at the email that actually sent it to you and look to see if it's a vendor that you work with or, something that's familiar to you. Right. So are we doing anything like that from a continuing ed standpoint?
That's that is a great segue. So in the past, I met with the child nutrition and our financial team and our bookkeepers because they hold the funds really to the district. Once you're in, you can get the money. So I actually held a cybersecurity awareness and showed them, these are the elements that you look for. And with our principals, I met and showed them these are the things that make an alert show up. And we put the red pre-pinned at the top that says this didn't come from the district. Basically, that's keyed off of an at UCPS K-12 NCUS address. If it doesn't have that, it puts the red pre-pinned up there and says caution, be aware. And just recently, we had a few teachers click on something that looked very real. They copied our homepage, sent it out similar to what you're saying. These were the the bad guys, and they sent them out, and it was a Google form that looked just like our homepage. They even copied the images and the little hamburger 3 levels on the top left. And we had some teachers click on it, and it was a bot attack. So as soon as you put your credentials in, it would fire off a few more out off of your address list. Though if they click on them, it would open up a whole new form. So with our team over here, we went into response mode where we started blocking those forms one by one, but there were so many of them coming out with every email. We ended up shutting down access to Google for about 2 hours, and until we could get our arms around who was breached, and our systems tell us who gave up their credentials. We reset all their passwords. We put our arms around it. We shut it down, and then we brought it back on 2 hours later, and we were fine. It was a pretty extensive attempt, but we were able to mitigate that and get it resolved without any breach of data or any access. It was more or less just spamming out forms and emails. And we shut it down before anything could happen. But yes, we have been in front of the teams, and we have in the past consulted with a company called KnowBefore, and they actually create phishing attempts to your staff and then report off who has been breached. And currently, if an individual has done, has completed what you said, clicked on an unknown link and just unknowingly gave up their credentials, we send our engineers, our desktop support engineers, out to the person to explain what happened, and here is your new password, and we try to train them there. Our next goal is to get up some kind of video training so that we make that aware. So even if you are a new employee or existing employee, we provide that link to them to let them know what elements to look for, what makes a legitimate email, and we will, we always finished all of our communications with technology services will never ask you to give up your credentials off a link. We always point you to our homepage because that's where you can reset your passwords and fulfill everything. So we try to educate that at every opportunity we can in meetings, but we need to create a video to make it sustainable going forward for the new hires and others. So yes, you're right. We're headed that way. Our first element was just to assess where were we 9 months ago. What is our, if you perform a breach, what is our score? And we realized our score was not very good 9 months ago. So we put a lot of processes in place. The team to my left that's been over there have supported, spent many hours, have dedicated some time of shoring this up. Now we're just about to the industry average and going below private industry. So we're getting there, and we know that this is a long road and there's a lot more to achieve. But yes, that's our next steps, is to go into the video and the phishing attempt, next with our staff and see what happens. Any other questions on cybersecurity? Okay. My next one is basically a capital improvement update. So on the first page is currently what is being funded from capital expenses. I met with Ms. Heintel yesterday to review the capital expenses and what's up there. We have a device lease payments are $650,000. That is the administrative laptop similar to what Ms. Morris is using. We have 3,200 of those, and we put that out. That is in year 3 of 5 on the lease. We included $1 buyout on those. So at the end of 5 years, we can buy them for $1 a piece and keep them for another year or two if they're still functional and meeting business needs. The second one is the student devices. They're 6 through 12. That's our lease payment. Remember when we approved to put new Chromebooks in grades 6 through 12, that is the cost for the 5-year lease on that. We are in year 2 of that, 5. The third one is a projection refresh. Remember last year we started getting rid of bulbs in classrooms and putting HD TVs and touch panels. Has been well received by the staff. Teachers love them. Our instructors think that they are a vast improvement, and you can teach with the lights on now. You no longer have to have the lights off to teach because they're not dim. You know, you can actually leave them on now. And the life cycle of that is really 10 years. So the lower cost of ownership with no bulbs or filters. We're putting in better devices, so these should be sustainable for the next 10 years. So that's the current state. I just wanted to give you that. Down at the bottom is the new request, and I want to make you aware of them, is in the grades 3 through 5. We have Chromebooks that are 6 years old. They're on version 77 Chrome, which what that means to you is that they can't be increased anymore. The newest operating system for Chrome is 80. And they continue to come out with newer operating systems. And so at some point, they will become non-usable for testing or applications just because they're going to be older operating systems. Right now, they are sustainable. They are working, but we're noticing increased failure in hardware, instances and tickets. Just to give you one sample is over the school year, we've had over 500 of those actually fail. Motherboards fail, which is electronics in the laptop. We were only able to recover 72 of them. The parts are becoming unavailable. Now, if you want to know a risk and analysis, yes, they are usable, and yes, they can be used next year. It's just at some point over this next year, we're going to reach a point where there may not be that one-to-one saturation we've had in the past. And as you know, most families move to Union County because of our school district, how we're the highest performing one in the district, how we have we serve our students and we give them the best tools. This is one tool that's aging out, and I just wanted to make you aware of it. Performed an estimated 5-year lease, and that is $709,000. If we chose to go that way and refresh them this year, that would be the cost of doing that over a 5-year period if we wanted to add that. The next one is the network electronics. And
Mr. Parker, before we go for that one, can I?
Yes, sir.
So I don't know if you are the correct person to answer this. Mr. Breedlove, I hate to put you on the spot, but you may be the best one here in the audience. I guess my question is, help me understand 3 through 5. What, from an instruction standpoint, how critical are Chromebooks in the day-to-day operations? So I understand the end of grade testing is done on that. Mm-hmm. We've had some ideas in the past of how to make that happen with all of the Chromebooks that we currently have. Mm-hmm. If Chromebooks are not available in 3 through 5, is that detrimental to the day-to-day teaching activities at the school, or are these a nice to have in 3 through 5 and they're utilized at some point, but they're not, critical to the day-to-day operations?
I'll let Dr. Breedlove address the instructional side. From the technical side, when I'm in any elementary school, and you're welcome to go into any of them, if you walk through those grade levels, they're open every day and sitting on the desk, and they're using them. I'm not sure what capacity that is, but I see them open and they're using them, and I'll let Dr. Breedlove talk about the instructional use.
Sure. Each year they become more and more useful in the classroom as teachers become more fluent in the use of the product, but also programs that school systems, the state is purchasing, such as iStation, are built in on our Chromebooks. And so each year, yes, they become more and more instrumental in the education process. Still doesn't take away from the teacher and in the classroom. Your greatest teachers, give them a piece of chalk and a chalkboard, and they'll be able to structure it just like that they always have. But when it comes to connecting with students, when it comes to projects, creativity, yes, that tool is extremely valuable to Union County Public Schools, as well as other school districts that have the capability of using them, and they're becoming more and more instrumental.
And I may make a comment. We have moved to Canvas, which is a learning management system. So the teachers now are putting their instructional materials and lessons in a Canvas, which is an electronic platform. And that allows parents and the students to access those on a daily basis and get remediation at home or access to materials. So that's, they're using Canvas in the classroom and for instructional purposes to complete assignments. So I know that they use that electronically to get to the teachers' credentials and their materials that they put out there for each one. And I know that that's one platform that's used or implemented in every school and every classroom is our Canvas.
Yeah, I'm still not getting a good understanding of, is this critical for day-to-day instruction in 3 through 5, or is this a nice to have? I understand there's programs available. I can't imagine that every school district in North Carolina has a one-to-one initiative, especially in 3rd to 5th. So I guess my question is, we're continually challenged from a budget standpoint. We have a lot of capital requests out there this year. Until I have a clear understanding of that, I'm not apt to ask this to go through. But I guess as a follow-up, if you could let us know that, that'll give us a better understanding of whether this is a must-have.
Yes, I mean, we'll be able to, we will be glad to put in any type of data that you want on the use, whether that's perception data, whether that's, whatever this committee needs to make those decisions. We'll be glad to put that data together. Just day-to-day inside of schools. In my perspective, yes, it's critical that we keep them, but we'll let the data drive that decision.
And again, does it have to be one-to-one? We've done carts in the past, right, where teachers can check out the carts and they can go around and be utilized as need be. But I can't imagine like a 3rd grader's carrying a Chromebook home every day with them.
They don't. We don't take any computers home in elementary school. It's only on a cart in a classroom. So we only have classroom sets.
That's correct.
And so, but the use of those on daily activities, they get used every single day. It would be a rare day if those laptops were not pulled off the cart.
Okay.
I reiterate that too. While they're usable, they can make it through next year, and I think it'll be close, and we'll keep that 1-to-1 ratio. But they're failing at a more alarming rate, and at some point, we're just kicking the can down the road. At some point, we're going to have to make an action in that area, and buy more, improve that part somewhere.
Right. I got 2 questions. What's the rate of incident of failure for 3 through 5? Is it higher just because
No,
the children are younger? I don't know if they hit the keys harder, or whatever first. But
that's a good question. Actually, it's lower because they don't go home and they're not carried outside the school. So they're very sustainable. It's just the age of it's like driving a car many miles. When you reach a certain point, you start to have failures. And that's, we're at that point now where they're aging out. They're still functional. They still use them every day. And I have confidence they'll work through next year, but at some point we will fall off of that 1-to-1 environment if we continue on not replacing them at some, down the road.
Okay. And second question, when is the end of life for version 77?
That is the max version that we can put on the devices. So Chrome is.
When is it end of life as far as support?
Do you know that, Emil, the end of life of version 77?
So it's no longer supported at all.
What about the apps that are being utilized on it? Are you still able to download an app and have it function? And
the apps are up to the individual owners of those, companies. So at some point, they need to keep in mind that all districts are not having the current newest.
Right.
So they will mitigate and move up at some point. And as they do, if these are not compatible, they'll just fall off of those applications being used because it's like having an older operating system and trying to run a newer application. So at some point, the 2 will meet, and we try to stay current with all our versions, but we just can't bring these up to any higher version than what they are now. Thank you. Any other questions on the Chromebooks? And then if not, yeah. You did great. Thank you. The last one is our E-rate. So, as you know, the state has connectivity initiative that provides E-rate funding for communications in schools, which includes our electronics in our schools. The federal government provides half of those expenses, and the state provides the other half. So the reason this is on here is next year, our electronics, core electronics that cover the phones, the management, all of our AC and heating environments, because they run over our network, you know, our wireless and wired networks, everything, those are 7 years old. So we will replace them using E-rate funds, which is half of it's covered. And I know the federal government will provide their half. They always have. The reason I put this on here, and after meeting with Ms. McLam, was we're not really sure what the state's going to do. They have $9 million in that E-rate fund. They've requested $15 million more to meet the demands. I'm just not sure if they're going to fund it all. They're not going to fund any of it. So we're similar to what you were seeing as a school board, is we're not getting a response from the state on how much they're going to fund, or if they're going to fund, or what percentage of this. Maybe it's going to be all, but I put it on here because it will be a factor if they don't. If the state does not fund it at some point, it will be a factor that our core electronics have reached in these schools at the top, have reached kind of an end of life. Are they working? Yes. But if they fail, they take the whole school down. You know, there's nothing. There's no telephones to call or any management of our school classrooms with AC and heat, because those are done over electronics. But I just wanted to make you aware of it. I put the note up there. It may not even be needed, but it is the 50% that the state has not committed to yet.
I think you just said it. So this is only the state's
Yes, ma'am.
50%.
Yes, ma'am.
So you feel confident you'll get the 955,000 from the federal?
Yes, ma'am. They've consistently provided those fundings over the years.
Okay.
This one is just, the only reason it's here is I'm like you.
State
I'm just
budget.
unsure of the budget, and
Mhm.
if the money's there, they just haven't allocated it out.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So I guess this would be more like a chargeback for us if we pay this and
It would be.
replenish it with the state funds is what we're looking at.
It would be. And as part of our initiative for next year, these are the first schools that have been moved over from the Cisco to the Juniper platforms.
Mhm.
Well, that was 7 years ago. Well, now they're starting to age out, and we've got to address those too. And the only reason I put it on here is because DPI has not provided any updates or information. They have not released those funds yet. And so I just put them on here to make everyone aware that that is sitting out there again, just like everything else. It's kind of a state budget law.
So these sites are using Cisco or Juniper?
Juniper, they're our
Okay.
first sites
Okay.
that were converted over.
Okay.
So, but they've aged out now to the point,
7 years.
yes, ma'am, that they've reached that 7 year. They were the first ones, and now we're going to bring those back in and update them again, which they'll go another 7 years.
Now these modular switches, if they go out, we can,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they're not like an old chassis.
No, they're not.
Okay.
You are correct. So any questions on that I can answer? If not, I'll leave you with information, and you can reach out if you have anything else.
So are you looking for action on this, or this is informative?
No, no, sir. At this time, I would ask that this be moved to the Finance Committee so that you could at least review these requests and put them in as a talking point. If you're, my preference is that we start refreshing the 325, just to stay in with the model of 1-to-1 where we are now and create sustainability. But I just want to make you aware of everything that's on here right now.
Ms. McLam, when are we looking to have all of our requests in by?
We're already meeting as the central office, as cabinet, to start going through our priorities and pulling in any needs for this upcoming year. So we're starting to have those group meetings, and then probably by the middle of March, I want to start having some 2-on-1 meetings with finance committee and board members to try to go through some of that as well. So, I mean, I'd like for this to be able to move forward, for us to be able to consider it. If we can move it forward so we can start more discussions about it, and as a full board or as a finance committee, we start prioritizing differently. I mean, but a recommendation for it to go to finance would be, if we could do it today, would be great.
Okay.
We need a motion for that.
And then,
You don't need to have a motion to the finance. You can just agree that finance for the next committee to look at it by consensus.
Jay had a question.
Yes, sir.
When did we,
No, my fault.
one-to-one ratio, is that something we have done since the start of this program, or is that, I know we had the carts at one time, has that been our goal from the beginning?
It was instigated about 7 years ago. They put that 1-to-1 in, and it's been that model right now for 3 through 12. The K through 2 areas are iPads, and based on the state providing more iPads with the iStation and M-Class testing, we have moved from a 1-to-12 to a 1-to-6 ratio. In some schools, some Title I schools, we have some extras in those where we're almost in a 1-to-3 ratio in those. But that is not a 1-to-1, but they have a shared model. And to supplement that, last year when we removed the 6 through 12 Chromebooks, the older ones, I moved 150 of those down to those grade levels to give them devices that are usable for internet, not necessarily for testing or anything else, but it gives the children a device to use each day, and it gives them, like what Mr. Mariel was saying, a classroom set. They're on rollers and they can be pushed around in the schools.
and the 9310, help me understand, is that, are we replacing every Chromebook? Like this 9310,
Yes.
is that our population of 3 through 5?
9310 is the population in grades 3 through 5. And the 10% above is the sustainability over 5 years, because you're going to have attrition and, growth. And so that's the above, but 9310 is the 1-to-1 model and gives us the meeting our current enrollment as of today.
And this is a lease as well?
It
This
is a 5-year lease, yes. And I based all the information on our current lease with our vendor Lenovo on what they've provided to us, which includes the cost of the device and the case and putting it, on site. What is not included is the Google license, which is $25 a machine. That's what I had to add in there, and taxes. But yes, that is a 5-year estimated lease, and I can get a valid quote, and we'll probably go out to an RFP again so we can try to get the most competitive price. It may be better than this now, but I'm just basing it off of what we did 2 years ago and tried to give you an estimated cost of sustainability.
Okay, Ms. Morris, you said we do not need a motion and a vote on this?
Because you're not directing the board to take any action, or you're not requesting the board to do any action, any committee can review anything. So if you want the finance committee to approve it for the board, then I would make a motion. But if you just want them to look at it, it's fine. It can be put on the finance agenda without.
So we
these
don't need a
committees.
motion to move this forward to finance?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
That's needed.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Next on the agenda is transportation efficiency update. Mr. Strickland.
So you have in your packet the information about the latest efficiency numbers that we got. And a month or so ago, I requested some information from DPI, and I'm just going to share a small portion of this with you all. The transportation efficiency formula, I don't think I've talked to anyone that absolutely understands all of it. I got some information back from DPI, and I'm sharing this with you all to kind of put the rating in perspective. The transportation funding model, this is from an email from DPI, is a 2-factor stepwise linear regression put together at equal weight. It's been a long time since I've had statistics, and I have not delved into this, but the the two things that are important in all of this are bus efficiency and cost efficiency. And bus efficiency is the density of the number of students that live close to a school and how far we transport them. But I thought it interesting to note that under cost efficiency, one of the factors that is considered in the efficiency formula is county elevation. And I did not know that. That had been rumored to me. And I say all this to say that in a meeting I was in some weeks ago with similar districts, job alike meeting, we had this conversation about the efficiency formula. And there is a group in the state that are looking at this. They are wanting it to be something that is easier to understand and easier to figure out how we can improve and get better. We all know that the more kids that we transport, the fuller the buses are, and the shorter amount of time they go adds to our efficiency formula. But in going through this and looking at our rating for this year, which is 92.23%, that is a moving number every year. We could have the same numbers, the same data, the same information for next year and be better or worse. It is in the words of DPI, it is a moving frontier. So it's almost like grading on a curve. We can stay the same this year, but with the same numbers, we don't know what the rest of the state does, where we will end up. And I just wanted to share that with you all. Our initial calculations last fall on the simulator put us at about 91%, but we came in at 92.23%, and you can see the numbers on the sheet of what the state has calculated for us. Again, I just felt like I should share with you all the process that they go through, and it is
A moving target.
and it's hard to understand. And so there's a group looking at trying to figure out how to simplify this. I'm trying to get into that group, but it's a moving target.
So my initial thoughts looking at this being the 6th largest school district in the state, and considering the fact that we do have opened up school choice that requires parents to transport their kids, and the state average being 92.68, and our moving number is 92.23, I would say with all of the things that we manage in the 6th largest school district, I would say we're doing pretty good.
I asked DPI, I said, how does a county get a really high rating? And he gave me a great example. I don't remember the specific county, but he mentioned a rural mountainous county in the mountains that may have 12 buses. He used 12, 20 buses. So they pick up elementary, middle, and high school students all on the same bus. They go one time. And they have, they're all on the bus together. And so they run a 1-tier system, whereas we have a 2 and a 3-tier system. Obviously, we can't do that. And Ms. Merrill, you make a great point about all the different programs we offer and are able to offer. And with that in mind, even with the moving target, I think we're doing pretty well.
Yeah. We're within that state average,
Right.
being a very large school district, and allowing students to go to their school of choice and providing their own transportation.
Right.
So it sounds like with the formula, it really doesn't account for real world examples as far as moving children around in a larger school district.
But that's how you get a higher rating, is putting them all on the bus together.
Well, that was the ideal scenario. If you want to have 100%, you run the bus one time, you pick up every student, and then you drop them off at the school. A small district can do that. They're not running 2 and 3 tiers. Now, there are some other districts that may be a little higher than us. They may have They may be at a different elevation. I don't know. I was surprised to see
The elevation
county-
does make a,
well, and if you think about going up and down hills, I guess that may make sense. But in the terms of the big picture, I just think that the formula could be simplified a little bit, and that's what the group is hoping to do.
and it doesn't take in, well, the potential for changing routes multiple times per year didn't account for that either. We got
Right.
those
Yeah. That's
FedEx,
true.
UPS, they change the routes daily, and I mean,
Right.
they're trying to be as efficient as possible, so.
So we continue to look for efficiencies in terms of the best things that we can do is reduce the number of buses that we have on the road. And with our bus driver shortage, we're trying to do that as well, just to lessen the impact of the number of drivers that we need.
So the formula doesn't change at all, but the targets change.
Yes.
Or the weighted targets.
The weighted targets
At the
change.
end, so-
Yes, and the inputs change. Obviously, inputs change, but anyway, this is the most detailed information. I'll be glad to share it with you all.
So
It's-
that mountainous county that has 12 buses, they
Right.
get one more bus for whatever reason.
Right.
They're the target probably and
yeah,
it could drop.
it's interesting reading.
I have a
Interesting.
question. Considering our bus driver shortage and the fact that we are having to run some double routes, taking one load of kids, dropping them off, going all the way back, picking up another load and doing it again. How does that affect our 92.23?
I don't know that it matters because we're running the bus on one route and picking up the kids. Then we're using that same bus, putting the same number of miles on it, on that bus, as we would another bus and running another route and picking up kids. The only good thing is that we're not using two buses to transport those kids.
Mhm.
We're using that one bus for two separate routes. So I guess in the end, it could help us some.
That's what
but
I was,
It hurts us obviously on the time of getting kids.
it hurts the kids and the families,
Right.
but not necessarily our efficiency.
Right. And so you mentioned bus drivers. If I may take a quick segue into that, we are pursuing any and all options. I won't
Mhm.
get into them, but we are trying to leave no stone unturned in trying to find bus drivers. Chamber of Commerce, Association of Realtors, the clergy. I reached out to Wingate. We talked to our own staff again. So we are managing it, but it is difficult not having enough drivers. We are chronically short some 20 plus drivers every day. That does not count the ones that are out on FMLA or some other reason, such as being sick. So on any given day, we're 10% plus out of bus drivers.
Where are we on the IB busing and this number? Can you give us an update?
I don't have any information on that to share with you today. It's a component of everything that factors into the efficiency formula.
How many buses are we running for the IB across the county?
Miss Merrill, I do not have that number handy.
Can you please get that and send it
Absolutely.
just go ahead and send it to the full board?
I will.
We need that information going into the budget cycle. We need to know how many buses are you running for IB? Is it
Sure.
a district thing, or is it just one bus trying to cover the whole county, or
Right.
how many buses cover the whole county?
I'll get you the scenario and present it. I'll
Yeah,
send
we
it to the
need
board.
that information.
Email, okay.
Email's perfect.
Okay, great.
And just go ahead and send it to the full board since we're going, the finance committee is going to need it just as well as this committee. So,
Okay.
and then eventually the whole board's going to need it anyway.
Okay, do that.
I'm not sure if we're going to get to it today, but I also want to get an update on our contract services for transporting students. Do you have that information today? And how many the contract service
For McKinney-Vento and things like that.
and if we're using that for IB as well.
Sure, I can get that for you and we'll include it in
So
the
that's
same.
not in here for today
Well, no.
to discuss?
No, not to
Okay.
discuss for today, but I can get you the specifics.
Mhm. The
And
budget,
you're looking for the
'Cause I know-
budget,
Mhm.
the
number of students.
number of students that we're transporting, maybe where
Point
they're
A to
going.
point
Sure,
B.
I can get that.
how many of those are McKinney-Vento, how many of those are IB or
Right.
other.
And keep in mind that number will fluctuate, in particular with the McKinney-Vento, sometimes
Exactly,
we
sure.
may but I'll get you a
But,
good overall picture.
current status.
Sure.
Current status.
Okay.
And have we used up all of the funds that we allotted for that contract service? Or have we not used all of
Okay.
that to date?
Okay, I'll get you a good picture of that.
But I definitely want McKinney-Vento separate
Okay.
from IB.
Question about the McKinney-Vento too, this came up. Are they trained the same as our current drivers?
So the contract services people,
Yes.
that is a contract program. They do have to pass background checks and safety requirements. They're typically transported in vans, small mini van type vehicles.
I was wondering if they're aware of maybe like some medical situations or something like that with students.
I'm not aware of any medically challenged students that we're
Okay.
transporting on McKinney-Vento. Now, compare that with EC buses. They are trained.
Okay. And the other question is, how's the state budget? Is it affecting funding? Transportation?
I'm going to let Ms. McLam answer that one. We haven't seen any effect in the shop. I'll say that, but in the big picture, may be different.
We did get our final drop like 2 weeks ago. So it took them a while to get the sufficiency rating done and give us the funding for it. We have it. So if that.
If you recall, we normally get this back in the late fall.
Yeah, we usually
it
have it
was
much
delayed.
sooner than this.
Mhm.
Right.
But don't they account for current fuel prices? Because we're working off last year's budget. And don't they account for rises in fuel,
There
some
are
other parts and stuff like that?
There are
Yeah.
factors in
Yeah,
there for
there are
that.
adjustments for fuel.
But they have
Yeah.
come back depending on what they calculated initially, because we do get those allotments normally fairly early in the year. Sometimes they have come back in the spring and reduced or give more. But I think because of the timing, that shouldn't impact us this year.
I just want to make sure they have a certain pool of money and they can give out, and we're not going to be short,
Well,
hopefully.
We could.
I mean,
It's possible.
yes.
Mr. Strickland, talk to me a little bit about ridership percentage. How are we looking this year?
I don't have any numbers that I could share with you. I could tell you from just observations that we are down from previous years some. So
We started out pretty high, right? And that's probably a normal trend.
it is. So the trend has been downward since 2013-14. So we've gone down some every year. Just as a point of reference, in 13-14, our student count was 26,479. And last fall, when we did the student count to go into the efficiency rating, it was 22,640. So in last year, it was 22,823. So it has gone down some every year for many years.
And a lot of things have happened to the school district since 2013. We had about 6,000 students redistricted.
Right.
We had more, as a result, more students leaving the district to go to charter school, private school, and homeschool. And now we're offering school choice.
Right.
So a lot of things have happened since 2013-14.
We consider the change from last year to this year flat. I mean, it's a
Right, couple hundred,
couple hundred students,
Yeah.
so it's flat.
which our enrollment went down about 100. So
Yeah, pretty flat with that as
Mhm.
well.
Flat, I would agree.
Where are we on the director position?
So we have conducted interviews. We will be having a final interview this Friday for a candidate.
Oh, good.
many made it to the final round?
In total, we will have interviewed 4. I would note timing was not on our side. There are 4 counting hours. There are 4 vacancies in the state for transportation directors. We believe ours is the most attractive. We have the best school district of any of the ones that are out there, and we have presented that to the candidates, and hope to bring something to you all Tuesday night. It's been a good week so far. If I hope we can get through Friday with the last interview and come to you all Tuesday night. I'm excited. Can't wait to share the information with you all.
So Mr. Parker gave us a funding request. Do you also have a capital funding request?
So I don't have anything formalized yet. We were trying to finish putting it together yesterday, but I think in general, it would be very similar to what we've had in years past. The areas where we purchase things in transportation are the cameras. Cameras break, they have to be replaced. That will be an ask this year, similar to what we had last year. Our radio contract for our buses is it's a 5-year agreement. We're in the last year of that. We've made the final payment. We met with the county who oversees and helps us with that. We met with them some months ago, and while the devices are still good, the software will have to be upgraded and improved. They're doing a similar thing with their 911 center over there. And then we'll have some asks for vehicles. So those are the 3 categories of things that we'll be looking at. And we expect the ask to be similar to what it has been in years past.
Speaking of the county, have we talked to them at all about our bus driver shortage and if they could potentially be creative with us in solutioning? Meaning, would they have any employees that?
No, I have. I felt like I had turned over every stone. As I said, I'm reached out to a retirement community. Chamber of Commerce. I mentioned the things.
Right.
We've not specifically talked to the county. At one point in time, we did talk to them about some transportation needs, but we can't do that, about them transporting some of our McKinney-Vento kids, but we couldn't do that. But we can do that. We've reached out to our internal staff, specifically the maintenance guys, just to say, look, help us out. Get the kids there in the morning. That's a critical time. Help us. And
just curious if they also have CDL certified,
They-
staff on hand that perhaps
they may have some, and that's a great idea. That is one I had not considered, but I will do it this week.
Because it came up as we were meeting, or maybe as an afterthought in meeting with the county previously,
Right.
that, from like, are we competing for resources at all? Right. So rather than compete, maybe we join.
Well, I think they would be in a similar situation that we're in with our full-time employees. They would have people that are full-time. The question is, would they let them come and drive for us and then go and continue and do their other jobs?
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough
Good idea.
sell, but I'll ask. I will absolutely ask. Thank you. Thank you.
So when you were mentioning, I agree, and I want to commend you and your staff for getting creative and
Hasn't paid off yet.
and reaching out to clergy and retirement communities. So that was going to be one of my questions. Did you get any bus drivers from those reaches? Realtors and.
I've not. I can't say I have a win with any of those yet.
Okay.
I can tell you that 2 weeks ago, we had a bus class, and out of the 17 people in there, 15 of them were going to be assigned to yellow buses. If we get all 15 of them, I ran into a man at the grocery store the other day and struck up a conversation and found out he lived in a retirement community in Lancaster, South Carolina called Sun City.
Yes.
I've sent them some information, and I've been trying to go down there. And I talked to this guy, and he he wasn't excited about it.
That's awesome. So I heard you mention Wingate
Right.
a few minutes ago as one of the reaches. Were you referring to the town of Wingate
No.
or Wingate University?
University.
Were you reaching out to Wingate University staff or students or both?
I received a contact from the Chamber of Commerce to contact the school, and she said that they would put it out to students.
Students.
Right.
Okay, so when you said Wingate, my next thought was, did you reach out to SPCC
I'm doing that as well, and CPCC.
and UNCC? Because we have a lot of students that live at home in Union County and commute to UNCC based on their schedule.
Right.
So there might be a lot of kids who are trying to save money by living at home and would be willing to run a morning route or whatever to earn a little bit of money to go to UNC Charlotte.
Sure. I will do that, and those are great ideas. So I've gotten two great groups of questions today. I can tell you my recent efforts in trying to work with some of the universities, including the local ones, on some scholarship efforts were not very fruitful, but I will pursue these as well.
I mean, I know that we now have a lot of UCPS graduates who are looking at 2-year scholarships at SPCC. They're trying to, earn an associate's degree, live at home, earn a little bit of extra money, and decide if they're going to move forward towards a 4-year degree. And these might be the type of students between Wingate University, UNC Charlotte, and SPCC. Those might be a good group set of students that might be willing to run that morning route, or even an afternoon route. Maybe they have morning classes and they're free in the afternoon.
That's a great idea. I did not mention I also reached out to the County Economic Development Commission.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you never know.
Mm-hmm. Great. You have been creative, and I've actually enjoyed seeing buses parked at churches and different lots with, we're hiring banners down the side. So I've never seen that before.
We're taking in all ideas.
So if we see you at the grocery store, don't strike up a conversation with you.
Or get an update.
Yeah.
Right. No.
Couple of questions. The radios, are they not paid for by the state?
We have to reimburse those, correct? What the state pays for them and we reimburse? Radios. I want that you get it from the finance officer.
The radios are paid from state funds. We normally fund more through local than the state gives us. So, even though we try to keep everything through the state account, but yes, I guess technically we would be reimbursing it with local dollars.
And I just
Because it's like right now, I mean, I don't.
It was 168,000.
And that we're paying to the county.
And I will share with you, when I was a new board member 4 or 5 years ago, I remember entering into the county wanted to part. We were able to get a better price by entering into a contract with the county.
They are so helpful in this whole process. I mean, they're providing the technology component of this, and they run the show, and we pay them. It's great. Yeah, they're good to partner with.
Really good price.
And I have one more question too. As far as the routing software, I know we were looking at that at one point. Are we still looking at potentially going with a different routing software?
So we have put that on the back shelf because, as you know, we've had a vacancy for some time, and they looked at it one time. There's also a new version of our existing software that has come out as well. So until we get somebody in here, we will just kind of wait and see where they want to go with that. The issue is there are other software packages out there, but the one we get now that we use is free from the state. So we're looking at all options.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Strickland? Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Makeup Day. Mr. Bulla, come on down.
February 21st. Basically, due to the legislation, the recommendation is to add 2 days for the staff at the end of the school year. Because the staff is required to have 215 days. And so that's the recommendation is for the traditional calendar, add June 12th and the 15th, which is it's Friday and the following Monday. For the year-round calendar, June 9th and 10th, and the early college calendar, May 26th and 27th.
The snow days that we had, were those optional as well, or were the schools closed?
Schools were closed on both
Okay.
of the days. Yes, sir.
And help me understand optional. What exactly does that mean? Like if we have to, so teachers may come, may not, but the schools will be open?
I think that if we were to have the students closed and an optional teacher workday, they could opt to come in should that be the case. So they could either take a day off or take an annual leave day or come to work. So that would sort of define the option. But since the decision was made for the school system to be closed, that kind of removed the option for the staff.
But at the end of the day, no matter whether we decide optional or closed, we're required for staff to have 215 days
That is
per
correct.
state statute at the end of the year.
Yes,
Whereas with students, we can have number of days or hours.
correct.
And so based on our calendar, we usually always fall within the number of hours that are required, which is why with the students, we have a little more flexibility.
Correct.
Ms. Morris, do we need to vote on this to send it to full board?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to send to the full board, the calendar updates, for the makeup days.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, thank you. All right, so information to be taken to the full board is the calendar updates. We are also taking to finance, I guess, the funding request. And next meeting date, do we have?
Finance has the transportation's needs already, correct? Okay.
I don't know that Mr. Strickland had final numbers either today
Okay.
for you all.
Is it already on the calendar? I can get it.
It's, the next meeting is March 25th at 7:30 a.m.
Okay, thank you for that. And next, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.